Hello, I'm Vara, and normally this is where Roxy says she's Roxy. However, she's not here today. She has some family events going on back in her hometown, so she is out partying up and enjoying her family. So much love to her and to her family who is celebrating uh, some really wonderful milestones out there. So that is what's happening. You have me on the VCR show. I am the V in the VCR show. But nonetheless, Roxy is not here. She will join us again next week. So don't worry. She hasn't left me. I know everyone's all like, oh, when is she going to leave you? She can do so much better than you. Whatever. It's the other way around here. It's me. Anyway. So, going on with today's show, we have something kind of different. So, we are a pop culture show. We normally do all kinds of pop culture stuff. And then it dawned on me, I haven't really done like a old school pop culture thing in a while. I want to say the last older pop culture reference I did was maybe John Hughes and his films of back in the day. So, today we are going to kind of throw it back, but we're going to do a musical one. Um, Kind of, sort of, maybe music and TV and what all that fun stuff has led to. So today we are exploring the television rock band group, etc., the Monkees. Hey, hey, we're the Monkees. So anyway, that's what we'll be doing today. We'll be exploring the Monkees and what are the words that kind of like their contributions in American society and what did they really do? And oddly, quite a bit, especially Michael Nesmith, who is Mike in the TV show The Monkees. So let's jump into it. The Monkees were a 1960s television show about a rock band. They started off as a television show. It was a fictional rock band called the Monkees that later ends up becoming a rock band. Now, they have the band, the Monkees, categorized in different genres. You have rock, you have psychedelic, you have a couple other genres that they threw them into, but mostly let's go with rock. Okay, so they're a rock band called the Monkees, and they come onto the scene, I want to say about 1966. And they end up producing several hits, not just for the TV show, but on their own as well. They end up coming up with, like, if I share this with you, so let me do what I do and share screen with you. And not Roxy because, she's not here, so that makes me all kinds of sad. But according to Billboard, the top 10 hits of the Monkees is coming in at number one, I'm a Believer, which was a really huge hit for them. Number two, Daydream Believer. Number three, Last Train to Clarksville. Now, Last Train to Clarksville is kind of a interesting and important one here. The reason for that is I think this song is what ends up getting them on the FBI watch list, and I'm going to tell you why in a little bit. Number four, A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You. Five, Pleasant Valley Sunday. Valerie comes in at number six. That was then, this is now comes in at number seven. Words is number eight. DW Washburn. I'm not familiar with that one, but that's number nine. And then number 10 of the list, Stepping Stone, or what's known as I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. These rankings are kind of based on data collected from number one hits throughout, their career and the Billboard charts. So thank you, Billboard Music. Let's give credit where credit is due for this article. The name of the article is The Monkees 10 Biggest Hits. 10, I'm sorry, 10 Biggest Hot 100 Hits. And this was written by, I don't know why it loves doing this, by Keith Caulfield. Keith Caulfield. And this was published in 2012, February 29th, 2012. So thank you so much for that. But anyway, moving along, we're going to stop sharing right here really quick so I can kind of tell you about what ends up happening, why they end up on the FBI's list. So The Monkees were slightly controversial. Now, I know you're thinking this NBC television show, why would they be controversial? Why would this band be controversial? Although they were not as aggressive with their political standpoints. A lot of their music was very anti-Vietnam, especially the song Last Train to Clarksville. That was had quite a few anti-Vietnam kind of references in there. And so this ends up at the time getting them on the FBI's list to kind of like be watched and all this other good stuff because they were spreading what they felt was anti-war messages, and it's true, it's anti-war messages. Vietnam was going on. Vietnam was not a very popular war from beginning to end. So, that was 13 years of being very unpopular. So they ended up on the FBI's list. If you want to check it out, the FBI actually did release their stuff that they had on the Monkees and other groups. So check that out. That might be a cool little read for you on this anti-Vietnam music type of genre going on there. But nonetheless, that's what got the Monkees on that list. However, again, fictional band for a TV show ends up becoming a real band. The TV show lasts for about 3 seasons. And if you've ever seen the TV show, it's zany, it's quirky, it's not something that is well scripted. It was all over the place. There was a lot of physical comedy, a lot of camera shots, a lot of just goofy slapstick moments. With the occasional guest star type of thing. Now, they had several guest stars, like, throughout their almost 3 seasons. They had several guest stars. Now, I say almost 3 seasons because they got canceled in the third season. They were in talks and renewal with NBC. And basically, what happens is the Monkees want to change up the format of how the show goes. They want to go from a 30-minute format to a 1 hour format. And they basically said, hey, we want to go to an hour format and we want to introduce new bands and, more of a variety show type of thing. Because at the time in the 60s, you had a lot of variety shows. I mean, there were tons of them. You could even look at some of, well, I'm gonna go with Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, which I'm gonna be very honest with you, I never found that funny at all. Like I can watch it and maybe I'll get a chuckle out of it. But like it was just the comedy at that time was not anyway, that's a whole other show. So moving along, even Laugh-In was kind of like a variety kind of show, even though it was a comedy show. Liberace at the time, Liberace, the flaming pianist, uh he had a variety show at the time. Uh Sonny and Cher had a variety show. The Osmonds had a variety show. Donnie and Marie Osmond had a variety show. Everyone had a variety show in the 60s. It was just the flavor. So the Monkees wanted to move in that direction. NBC basically said, no, keep it to the format or no go. And they basically went no go, ending the television series. But again, they had a very successful band rock career, basically. Musicians, 4 of them. So let's kind of look at, well, no, let's not look at the four. Let's kind of look at what their comedy kind of delved into, which was basically, again, like I said, a lot of slapstick. A lot of it didn't make sense. It was just insane kind of comedy, and it was not the best. But sometimes, like I said, they did end up with some really interesting they did end up with some really interesting guest stars, including, and this is not the guest star stuff that I had up here. I don't know why it's not up here. It was there when I had it there, so you can tell I searched it. So, the guest stars of the Monkees, we had quite a few of them. Although this is not the complete list, I could not find a really complete list of all their guest stars because I remember watching quite a bit of them. But growing up, I watched the reruns, basically. And what we have here are just a few of their guest stars. You had the comedian Rip Taylor, Rosemarie, the actress. For those of you who are not familiar with Rosemarie, she was more famous for the Dick Van Dyke Show. You had Mike Farrell, who was an actor. He kind of did a little bit of everything, including movies and all that good stuff. Liberace came out on the Monkees as well. It was an interesting thing. He comes out and he is destroying a piano in one of the episodes. And, it makes it appear like he's going to come out and give this concert to this little posh group of people. And he just takes a golden sledgehammer and starts destroying the piano, and something clearly happens in that take, in that scene, because Mike Nesmith is in there standing in the background, and he just ends up falling over and cracking up. Like literally, he falls over and cracks up. They did not edit that out, so I'm kind of curious as to what it was that Liberace was doing that caused him to just crack up like that. So that is one thing. The rock star Frank Zappa was on the show as well. Larry Storch, who is a comedian, but he's an actor. He's famous for the TV show F Troop. And then, oddly, there was a very low budget, not so haha kind of kids show called the Ghostbusters. So there was something before the Ghostbusters, before the movie The Ghostbusters, which there's a fascinating story about how they were able to get the title Ghostbusters, considering that it was controlled by another network who had the rights to that name. But anyway, check that out on your own. Or maybe one day I'll do it. We'll see. You had Richard Kiel. So Richard Kiel is famous for being a Bond villain. He was, I think, Jaws in the Bond villain kind of genre thing. So he did a lot of other things, kind of went on to be a famous character actor type of situation. The beautiful and lovely Julie Newmar, Catwoman, who also did other things, but is famous for Catwoman. Burge Meredith, who was just a great actor, of course, famous for being the Penguin in the Batman series, well, you know, the original one, the campy 60s one that we all know. Uh, he is also the coach in the Rocky series. So he had a really illustrious career, both big screen and small screen. Bobby Sherman was a singer at the time. Don't even remember what he did. Vic Tayback was a famous television and movie actor. He's probably more recognizable for his television work in the movie in the television show Alice. I want to say he was also in the movie Alice. And I he did quite a few movies back in the day as well. Ruth Buzzy was a comedian, and she was also famous for being on the show Laugh-In. Lon Chaney Jr., who is the Wolfman, so he's famous on the horror scene as the Wolfman. Foster Brooks is a comedian, don't really not that familiar with him. And coming in last, Butch Patrick, who is famous for being Eddie Munster in the TV show The Munsters. And can't say that he really went on to do a whole lot more after that, although he tried, I'm sure. But those were kind of the guest stars that we had, although they had a lot more guest stars. I vividly remember them. But these are kind of like, I guess, maybe the top 15. So, we'll kind of leave it at that. Now, one of the Monkees here that I would like to point out. So here you have some of the Monkees and all this good stuff, right? And I guess we should kind of look at who all the Monkees were. So let's kind of type that in. Who are the Monkees and what did they end up doing later on? So let's not do the Monkey Show, but let's do the Monkees members. Here we go. I didn't even have to do that. There you go. Other people want to know. So you have Davy Jones, who was a vocalist, and then Mike Nesmith, and then Mickey Dolzlin, and Peter Tork. Now, the sad thing about this is 75% of the Monkees have already passed on. They are in the next world. The only one who's still alive is Mikey Dolzlin, uh, who was the drummer, but he also did vocals. He also had quite a few hit songs with them as well. They all did vocals. Not so much Peter, but they all did vocals. They all had their turn at singing. Um, and they were all musicians. Now, Michael Nesmith did piano and guitar, not just piano. Peter Tork did just piano. Mickey does drums. Dave was kind of the pretty boy, if you ask me. So what they did is they used him as the pretty boy because you have to have a pretty boy in your television show. Because if you don't, what's the point? Sip, sip. Anyway, so like I said, the majority of them have passed on. Mickey Dolzer here is still actually recording and producing music, and I think he's still kind of touring on his own. Um, to kind of give you an idea of the relationship of the Monkees, so Michael Nesmith here and Peter Tork were both folk singers before they jump into this wild ride known as the Monkees. However, Michael and Peter did not get along, and it was always said that they did not get along. Matter of fact, after Peter Tork was the first to leave the band, the Monkees, and I want to say he was the first to pass away. And after his passing, Michael Nesmith had kind of released publicly that him and Peter just did not like each other. They always kind of had some type of animosity towards each other. I'm not exactly sure what, they just didn't like each other. It's kind of like that guy at your office at the water cooler that you're just like, you don't like him. Why? I don't know, just don't like him. So, anyway, but they did not like each other, although they did have a folk rock background going on there. Davey was British and was again the pretty boy of this. Mike had some interesting talents. He was the more animated, goofy one in the TV series. Um, Now, as for Michael Nesmith, he has a really interesting background. I'm going to focus on his background more than any of the others. So what ends up happening is Michael Nesmith is always kind of seen as the leader of the Monkees. So whether it's the TV show or the band, and maybe this is where some of the issues kind of come in, he's always viewed as the leader. But in real life, Michael Nesmith has one of the more fascinating lives of the Monkees that I've kind of read about. Um, he really was a pioneer in a lot of different genres. He wasn't just stuck to the Monkees. He ends up doing quite a bit. So, again, folk singer, songwriter, musician, all that good stuff. He ends up writing a hit song for Linda Ronstadt after the Monkees dissolve. He ends up actually writing quite a few hit songs out there. So he's a very good songwriter who produced quite a few hit songs on his own, writing them for other band members and other band people. But here's the interesting thing. So let's go way back. He was born in Houston, Texas, my home city here of Houston, Texas, and grows up in Houston, eventually goes to Dallas, and his mom does something interesting. Now, his mom is very, very interesting here. His mom invents what is known as liquid paper. Now, a lot of us may not know liquid paper. There's a whole generation out there that will never know what liquid paper is. So, liquid paper back in the day was an absolute godsend because before the computer, before printing things out on a printer, before being able to just go backspace on all your errors or letting Word highlight it and, change the spelling errors or grammar errors, you had to do everything on a typewriter. So if you made a spelling mistake, it was there and you didn't have a way to correct that. You would have to actually retype the whole thing so you can change that one correction because that's the way it was. There was no backspace. It was a manual typewriter. There was not a way to go back and correct your mistakes until the invention of liquid paper. Now, what liquid paper is, it's also, some people call it whiteout as well, but liquid paper, the original, was this little bottle of, how should I say, almost like white paint. It's not paint, but it's white paint. So when you are typing and you're like 5 paragraphs into your paper and you misspelled the word you put the E before the H or something like that. Well, you would have had to go back and retype all that. Now that liquid paper is on the scene, what you do is you take a little bit of your liquid paper, you brush it over where you made the mistake, and it whites it out. And so it looks like a blank space again. So then what you do from there is you just kind of set the typewriter back where you made that mistake and you type THE. You have to let it dry, but that was liquid paper. And that's what she invented. And later on in life, she sells liquid paper to Gillette, who paid her like $4 million for the creation, which back in the day, 4 mil was a lot of money way back when, compared to what it is now. So good for her. So she creates liquid paper. Uh, Michael ends up going on to be a pioneer in all kinds of stuff. He ends up creating his own record label. He also kind of creates, no, he does create the format for videos. And what I mean by that is like the whole music video genre was kind of created by what this man did. He had a album in the 80s called Elephant Parts. And no joke, this was a 4 hour series of just music put to videos. And it was him doing a goofy stuff. Some stuff made sense, some stuff didn't. And it was kind of the whole birth of the music video thing. And what he was thinking of doing is like there wasn't a need to go and buy the album. It was meant to, like, if you wanted to check it out at a library, you could go check it out. So yeah, it's also kind of, the precursor to, I guess you would say, borrowing videos or renting videos at the time. But the whole object was to go and rent them, whether it was library or something like that, go home, watch them, bring them back type of situation. That is what he kind of does. Now, because of this technology, because of what he does, he wins a Grammy. He wins a video Grammy for this. Like, well, not that the award's called the video Grammy, but he wins a Grammy for, I think, best video at the time. Let me take a look here what it was exactly. But anyway, the name of the Oh, here it is. Grammy Award for Video of the Year for, like I said, his 4 hour long comedy variety program, Elephant Parts, which was also the name of the album. So that's 1981. You got to check it out. But he also goes on to pioneer other things. He does a music video series for Nickelodeon called Pop Clips. He was approached by MTV when they were having a lot of trouble to kind of help become an executive and pull them out of it. He declines. He produced the movie Repo Man, out of all things. So he has a very, very fascinating life. Is the founder of Pacific Arts, which is a multimedia production. And he becomes very successful with this. As a matter of fact, he's the most successful out of all of them. He ends up becoming a very, very uh, progressive, popular kind of CEO. So, you know, he's really out there. And as you can tell, he's been married quite a few times. So, that, I guess that's what happens when you become a CEO type of situation there. But that is a little bit about the Monkees, a little bit about Michael Nesmith. Again, the TV show can still be found all over the place. It is it's something you can still find on MeTV and stuff like that. And it's something that you can still enjoy. For some odd reason, my mouse has decided not to work anymore. I'm like, what is wrong with you, mouse? Let me get in here and click this on and off. And it could just be that the battery's dead. Yay, me. And of course, it would happen right in the middle of the show. So, uh, What can you do? What can you say? Roxy isn't here. My mouse stopped working. All this other good stuff. Let me just kind of move that around in there, see if I can't get the juices flowing and see what had. Nope, still not wanting to work for me. Of course not. Why would it? Just, my life in a nutshell. Just, only on the VCR show could this happen. I'm sure in other places this happens too, but they're more professional about it. I myself am not because it's just me today. So, if Roxy were here, that'd be a whole other situation, but she's not. She would be here making fun of me, telling me what a loser I am. But, nonetheless. Anyway, the mouse is not going to work, so we're just going to leave it on this frame and me doing like this over here in your corner. So that's basically what ends up happening is you have some interesting stuff going on with the Monkees. So to kind of clear it up, the Monkees did not just go off and vanish. They do end up kind of creating other albums, some with Michael Nesmith, some without. The band kind of gets back together on and off. They go on tours. They do quite a bit of different music, but of course they never have that fame that they had back in the 60s. They kind of do all kinds of stuff. Some of their comeback stuff was released on Disney specials and stuff like that. But there's no hard feelings amongst any of them because, Michael Nesmith would join them on occasion on tours or would come out and do songs with them and stuff like that. So it was a very interesting relationship that they had there. And can't really, complain too much about the Monkees. They had some really great hits. You really should check them out. I'm sure you can find them on Spotify and other fun, exciting platforms like that. You can just go on YouTube and I'm sure find them there as well. But until next time, I am Vada. I'm going to go ahead and end this because I can't get out of this. And for some odd reason, it's just, nothing but fun for me today. So I'm going to get out of this. Roxy will be back next week. If you maybe have a particular rock group, television group that you'd like us to explore, let us know here on the VCR show, which is going to be the VCR show at gmail.com. Or you can hit us up on our social medias, which is at the VCR show. Or you can also hit us up on our YouTube channel, the VCR show, and the website, thevcrshow.com. And until next time, and this itty bitty little frame here, I'm going to do some miming because I can't get out of this. Just, it won't go away. I'm Vada. And this is where Roxy would be. I'm Roxy, but she's not. So anyway, until next time, you've been listening to the VCR show. Bye. You have been listening to VCR, creative content by Richard Christopher Vara and Roxy Perez. Logo by Richard Christopher Vara with assistance from Annie Ramirez. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach us at thevcrshow@gmail.com or our social medias at Instagram and Twitter at the VCR Show. And you can also check out our content at thevcrshow.com. The show song is Addict by Nefex, instrumental, and you can find them on YouTube Music Library.